Guys, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The playoff committee got it wrong. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day, so whether you agree with me, want to talk trash with me, or talk trash to me, you're going to enjoy this channel. And yes, you heard me right in my intro. The playoff committee got it wrong, and I'm about to explain why. First, I'm going to start with Alabama. Number 1, they're 11-0. They played Missouri, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, Arkansas, and Florida. So they played 4 teams in the top 25 and 4 teams with records above 500. They averaged 49.7 points per game. That's second in the nation. And have allowed 19.5 points per game. That's 20th. Alabama deserves to be in the playoffs and deserves to be the number 1 team in the nation. No argument there. Number 2, Clemson. They are 10-1. So here we are. We're already talking about the first team with 1 loss. They played Wake Forest, Citadel, Virginia, Miami, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Notre Dame twice. They lost the first matchup in double overtime, so a close loss, and then blew them out in the ACC Championship. They played 3 teams in the top 25 and 5 teams with records above 500. They average 44.9 points per game. That's 4th in the nation, and they allow 17.5 points per game. That's 11th in the nation. So that was a close loss. They have good stats, good strength of schedule. Yes, Clemson deserves to be in the playoffs. No argument there. Number 3, Ohio State. 6-0, so they are undefeated. Let's look at who they've played. Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, Indiana, Michigan State, Northwestern. 2 teams in the top 25. Same 2 teams with records above 500. They score 42.5 points per game. That's 8th. And they allow 21 points per game. That's 25th. So their stats are actually decent. The problem is they've only played 6 games. And their strength of schedule is terrible. Not good. I think Ohio State should be disqualified from the playoffs based on body of work. Imagine that. Body of work determining something. Yes, Ohio State does not deserve to be in the playoffs. Number 4, Notre Dame. They are 10-1. They played Duke, South Florida, Florida State, Louisville, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Clemson twice, Boston College, North Carolina, Syracuse. 3 teams in the top 25. I'm counting Clemson twice, which they won 1 barely, and they lost the other in blowout fashion. And they played 5 teams with records above 500. Again, counting Clemson twice. They averaged 35.2 points per game. That's 22nd. And they allowed 18.6 points per game, which is 14th. So they have decent stats. That's not the issue, though. Look, Notre Dame got blown out in the ACC Championship. That disqualifies them. A playoff caliber team doesn't get blown out. That should definitely be a criteria. You don't pass the eye test when you get blown out. Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. End of story. Number 5, Texas A&M. They are 8-1. They played Vanderbilt, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi State, Arkansas, South Carolina, LSU, Auburn, and Tennessee. Only 2 teams in the top 25 and only 3 teams with records above 500. And oh yeah, they got blown out by Alabama. They averaged 31.7 points per game. That's 42nd. And they allow 21.1 points per game. That's 26th. So they really don't have the stats. They don't have the strength of schedule. And they got blown out. Texas A&M doesn't need to be anywhere near the playoffs. I know they didn't make it in, but number 5? No. I'd say closer to number 10. Number 6, Oklahoma. They are 8-2. Let's look at their wins. Missouri State, Texas, TCU, Texas Tech, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Iowa State. Their losses: Kansas State and Iowa State earlier in the year. 3 teams in the top 25. 2 of those are the same team, Iowa State, and 5 teams above 500. Again, 2 of those, the same team, Iowa State. They won once against Iowa State, and they lost once against Iowa State. And they also got beat by a Kansas State team who finished with a losing record. No, Oklahoma does not deserve to be ranked above Cincinnati or in the playoffs. Cincinnati, the team that I have been advocating for, and here's why. Let's look at their schedule first. Austin Peay, Army, South Florida, SMU, Memphis, Houston, East Carolina, UCF, and Tulsa. They played 3 teams in the top 25. That ties Oklahoma and Clemson and Notre Dame for the second most. Only Alabama has played more. They played 5 teams with records above 500. That ties Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. They average 39.3 points per game. That's 15th, and they allow 16 points per game. That's 8th. They have the stats. They have the strength of schedule. They have the undefeated record. They passed the eye test. Cincinnati deserves to be in the playoffs. There is no argument. They are a playoff team, but the playoff committee just didn't choose them. That still doesn't mean they're not a playoff team. They still are. They just weren't chosen. I'm going to take it a step further. Coastal Carolina. They played Kansas, Campbell, Arkansas State, Louisiana, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, South Alabama, Troy, Appalachian State, Texas State, and BYU. They played 2 teams in the top 25, which ties Ohio State and Texas A&M. 5 teams with records above 500, which ties Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Cincinnati. They average 37.5 points per game. That's 18th, and they allow 18.7 points per game. That's 15th. And they beat Louisiana, who beat Iowa State, who beat Oklahoma. They're undefeated. They have the stats. They have the record. They have the resume. Coastal Carolina is a playoff team. I know that's going to sound crazy, but it's right in front of you guys. My personal playoffs would be number 1, Alabama, number 2, Clemson, number 3, Cincinnati, and number 4, Coastal Carolina. The big argument is, well, if you put group of 5 teams in there, they'll probably get blown out and it's a waste of space. Well, let's see here. Notre Dame got blown out by Clemson, so that's already happened. You have Texas A&M ranked above both of them. They got blown out by Alabama. That's already happened. Ohio State hasn't looked good at all. They'll probably get blown out. So that excuse does not exist, guys. It's all about the money. It's all about the brand. Just come out and say it. You messed up. You got it wrong. Unless you change the criteria and go, we go by money and brand as long as they're close to looking good. 3 losses, they're officially out. 2 losses and up. If you have a good brand, you have a chance. This is the year that a group of 5 team should have made the playoffs. The playoff committee has made a statement. A group of 5 team is not going to make the playoffs. So now is the time to either expand the playoffs to at least 8 teams. Most organizations have 16, and there's never any argument. Or the group of 5s need to split off and create their own playoff system and national championship. That's the bottom line, guys. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.